Hello, and welcome. It's your boy, the girl, the one and only, AiPai. Back at you with another pre-recorded video. This time we're going over the Oculus Connect. Uh, this was year 6 that they've been doing that, and there have been, no new hardware, but, 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 it has some pretty cool announcements, though. Kind of, we'll briefly go over some of the big updates, but well, I think everyone else has already kind of gone through the updates because it has been kind of a few days before I was able to actually work on this video. We'll go over that in the short part, and then afterwards, I'm going to kind of focus on some of the kind of more interesting, I think, from a tech perspective, the experimental kind of stuff that they're still working on, which I think it's valid now to look at some of that stuff, considering one of the big announcements they made was just talked about experimental feature for the past 2 Oculus Connects. So that's actually really exciting to see. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So the conference starts, as it always tends to do, with Mark Zuckerberg on stage talking about kind of his vision for the state and the future of VR. And a big thing with this entire conference is seeing VR and AR as the next transformative platform that allows a sense of presence in a way that current computing just doesn't. That is to say, there's something more naturalistic, tuned to the human mind and body that phones and stuff doesn't. He sees 2 kind of avenues that need to be built on for that, as he will explain in this clip I'm going to put here.
The first is we need to build a lot of technology that's going to help advance and deliver this feeling of presence. The second thing that we need to do is build an ecosystem of all the experiences that need to be delivered here.
So technology and ecosystem, and he does talk about the Quest being a good step in the direction of both technology and ecosystem. Interestingly, that the claim, and it's a claim, that Quest units are being sold as quickly as they can make them. And also that, on a more interesting note, the retention with people using Quests are much greater than with other Oculus headsets. And so, in order to kind of bolster the ecosystem a lot more, he wants to have Oculus headsets be more forward compatible going in from starting with the Quest, really. The other interesting thing is he just talks about in this clip here, which I have playing but not with the audio, that $100 million in sales in the Oculus store, which is to date from launch, yes, but it's still an impressive number. And so in order to kind of make this go a lot better, we have Oculus Link, which is a new software update to allow the Oculus Quest work with Rift content using USB-C cables. So they are making like their own cable that's supposed to be longer using fiber optics, so it's a little bit less latency. But for the most part, like, you buy a Quest, you get everything. So that really does make it a more forward-facing platform where no matter where the content's released, whether it's on a Quest store or a Rift store, if you have a Quest, you'll be able to play it, interact with it, which is really cool. Of course, following with the entire, we're going to make updates for the Quest to make things a lot better. We have probably the most significant update the Quest is going to have for, I think, the upcoming year. You could argue that Oculus Link is probably the most significant because that lets you do everything. But this one interests me the most, and I'll just let the Zuck continue on and reveal this one because I think it's pretty cool if you haven't already heard about it.
And I am excited to announce that early next year, we're launching hand tracking on Quest. All right, want to see it? Let's check this out. All right. So this means no controllers, no buttons, no straps, no external sensors, just full range of motion in your hands.
And this, I think, is really cool. It's coming out early next year. They didn't give an exact date for it, but like no controllers, no straps, no extra sensors. Use your hands and just full on wiggle the fingers. I can't do that because I have touch controllers, so And more to the point, it kind of, how should I put this? I'm not going to put this. I'm going to let Zuckerberg talk about this because he said it better than I could.
Right, 6 months ago, if you wanted to get into VR, you needed a PC, cables, sensors, hand controllers, and a half a dozen physical objects. And now, soon, it's just going to be a headset that you can bring with you anywhere that you go that is full inside-out tracking, completely wireless, and now your hands are just going to be there too.
It's really cool to think about it. They also did have, what is it, like full-on hand tracking tech demos that people could use. There was one stupid one I heard about where it's like, do your hand into like potions and things and the hands will change and like the way you interact with them is like, it's kind of a dumb demo, but it showed off like, oh, hand tracking works. And there's another one that was a little more interesting, which was like an insurance adjustment salesman training demonstration, which kind of shows like a business case use for using this kind of tech with VR, which, I mean, the reports that I've heard coming out of it is that it worked. It's a little buggy. There's like some issues with occlusion, like if you say put one hand in front of the other, it kind of lost the tracking a little bit. But aside from that and a little bit of a latency delay, which could, in theory, be tuned up by the time it comes out next year, that's like, what, at least 3 months away? Could be pretty special. And the thing is, and they made sure to reinforce this like multiple times throughout their demonstrations and the conference. Hand tracking is not replacing the controllers. It'll be additive. So you'll be able to have the controllers like what, you can't see them, but I use them with this, as well as like just picking up your hand and doing the wiggle of the fingers. So it'd be kind of interesting to see like the first one hand free, one hand on a controller, and you're doing one hand with tracking and the other hand using the controller. That might be interesting. Of course, this is a very future and forward-thinking conference, so it's not like they wouldn't go without talking about another thing. And Facebook is apparently partnering up with this Control Labs company for a weird little wrist bracelet that's supposed to interpret your neural impulses into like controls that could be used in VR. they have prototypes supposedly internally, but I mean, we'll see where it goes with that. That seems like a little bit further off, at least a few years maybe. Although who knows? Said that about hand tracking, and look, it came out a year later. The other big thing that they announced is that they're gonna make a Facebook Second Life, which I say Second Life more than VR Chat because it seems to share a lot more similarities with creation and interactivity with the Second Life, with tools being built in and stuff like that. More, at least from the sounds of it, interconnected of a world. I'll let the trailer play out because I think the trailer is pretty cute. So enjoy the trailer.
Beyond our world, there's another world. And it's right here, on my face. Welcome. This is Horizon. Think of me as your guide / self-appointed spokes avatar, here to show you around. You know, Horizon is filled with possibilities. You can play stuff, make stuff, fly stuff. Whoa! Really love the stash, Stuart.
What up, Stuart?
Wait, I want a mustache. Horizon isn't about rules or limits or pants or people telling you not to fly an airplane while drinking your fresh ground, fair trade, French press morning coffee through a curly straw. Isn't that right, Debbie? Mm-hmm. It's about getting out there and trying new things, making your mark, making friends with an Australian named Mark.
Oh, actually, I'm from New Zealand.
And you can even build a world of your own, like laser tag moon landing. Or this islandy place with these cutie patooties. Boop. In Horizon, the world is your lobster.
Isn't it oyster?
That too. So come, join us. A never-ending, ever-changing world beyond your world is waiting! Woo! Debbie gets it!
So while I think Horizon sounds pretty cool on the surface, they do say that it's built off of like the tools powering Facebook proper. So it seems like a cool idea. But on the other hand, with all this stuff coming out about like Cambridge Analytica and all the other things with Facebook, it's like it has me kind of iffy on the whole, but like I'd be interested to see where it goes. I think taking a more Second Life route approach to having a virtual world is probably a little bit more appealing on the grand scale than, say, VR chat or even Neo's VR, probably. But that kind of rounds out the Zuckerberg's end of the presentation. Next, we go to Andrew Bosworth? Let me check my notes. Yeah, Andrew Bosworth, who his entire shtick in the presentation is about doing, like, bridging the gap, distance, physical, and everything using VR. So, like, interacting with other people through VR in a way you couldn't, like, otherwise. And he had a pretty neat little demonstration. I don't know how much of it was done real time or how much was like conceptual, but a little presentation here about joining his dad to watch a basketball game in a virtual recreation, which I'll just let this play out in its entirety.
Just amazing work. When you rise, you'll be all grown. You ride the waves out into the sun.
Excuse me one second. Hey, Dad.
Hey,
I'm actually working right now.
I'm just about to watch the game. I want you here. Andrew, I miss you. Come on, huh?
Well, look, I mean, I miss you too, Dad, but, you know, I'm at work right now.
If you love me, you'd meet me here. I'll see you at home.
Yeah, one second.
Give you what you give to me, twice your weight in luxury.
Found a nice place in Portland. Thompson for three.
Yeah, boy,
You know, you really can't miss the Warriors. Clay's like an artist. He is a Picasso. He's better than Picasso.
Man, you know better than to get me started on Clay, because I will talk all day about that artistry.
Can you get beers here? You know, like an IPA or something?
We're still a couple years away from having beers in the headsets, Dad.
Now, it isn't the same as being there, but I tell you, that might be the next best thing. That is a really accurate representation of what it's like to watch a game with my dad, except there'd be a lot more complaints about traveling.
So that was a pretty cool demonstration, I think. Like being able to join someone in a virtual recreation of the space that they're in with a virtual recreation of yourself. But he does bring up a point, and it is a good one. Also because he wanted to, I guess, jump on the gun. If you're in the same room with someone and they want to join you, it's kind of awkward to put on a VR headset to join them. And that's where the next big announcement comes in, that they are working on augmented reality glasses, which I'll let him talk about here without interrupting.
Now, we have a few working prototypes, but these are still a few years out. So in the meantime, we're focusing on the deep tech stack necessary to bring these to life. Today, Spark AR is the largest augmented reality platform for the phone. And we're working on deepening the technology to bridge the physical and digital divides. At Facebook Reality Labs, our research teams are starting to build the core infrastructure that will underpin tomorrow's AR experiences. We call this research Live Maps. It's a shared virtual map of the world that involves machine perception, computer vision, and a bunch of core technologies in software and hardware that will also be important for virtual reality. Now, what does this research look like? Imagine the same reconstruction I did with my dad, where we were sitting in a room together, but this time at planet scale. Rather than reconstructing your surroundings in real time, the glasses are going to tap into pre-existing 3D maps of the space. Avatars come into play here too. With a 3D space, avatars could teleport anywhere in the world. You'll also be able to search and share information about the real world just as easily as you can the online world today. And a powerful assistant can bring you information that you need in an instant. At its core, technology like this and on this scale will rely on crowdsourced information captured by connected devices. Here's a closer look.
The world around us is constantly in motion. We need a new kind of map to help navigate this ever-changing landscape. A map like this is about more than just moving through the physical world. It's about enhancing the way we interact with each other and our surroundings. The vision of our Live Maps research is to bridge the physical and virtual divide to bring people closer together. To achieve this, Live Maps uses machine perception to construct multi-layer representations of the world, showing where you are in space, recognizing what things look like, and understanding the intrinsic meaning of objects. Connected devices, like smartphones and AR glasses, will scan the surroundings to create a live dynamic index, amplified by crowdsourced data, allowing the maps to recognize when things have changed and update automatically. Ultimately, our Live Maps research aims to empower people to connect and share in deeper, more meaningful ways. Whether it's improving how we access information, or understanding the context of a situation. To deliver shared experiences through augmented reality, or proactively serving up relevant information in highly personalized ways. Live Maps will one day transform how we all engage with the world, making it feel more immediate, more intuitive, more natural, more human.
So the bridging the gap thing with the recreations, while they have been working on that for a while, it's nice to see kind of like sort of the progress. And then the other big thing, the fact that they are working on augmented reality glasses, I think those are like the two big takeaways from his section of this keynote speech. Especially augmented reality, because like you can take that anywhere with you. You can wear it in the middle of the day, and it will be useful to you. Unlike VR, where like, oh, a virtual space while you're outside, you might get hit by a car that's actually coming at you from that. So, seeing them work on these two steps in synchronous, like, you think eventually, like down the road in the future, you have a single pair of like I'm gonna say glasses, but like a head-mounted thing that does both depending on the situation. But that's just me getting a little bit too forward thinking here and thinking about like 10, 20 years in the future. But that rounds out Andrew's section. And then next we have some small stuff with Stephanie. Let me check my notes here. Stephanie Lou. I don't actually have the departments for any of these people. I feel so bad. But at least I have their names. Who it just kind of goes over. They're going to do some back-end developer update stuff, things with like the pipeline renderers and like better metrics for seeing like how stuff is doing in the Oculus store, which is it's good to have. It's definitely good to have if you're a developer. Also some better GPU integrations and low-level access to things in the SDKs upcoming. The other thing, and I think the most interesting thing coming out of Stephanie's presentation, which she did have a very short segment, that they're going to add native support into Oculus for mixed reality capturing. So, like, if you think of the videos you sometimes see on YouTube where it's like they have, let's say, some VR situation, and like it's in first person in the VR stuff, but you see them like pull out to a different camera and they put the person with the VR headset into the VR like room. You might sometimes see this with like Beat Saber. They're making that native and easier to do. I'm taking this mainly from the Tested, Adam Savage's Tested. They did some videos talking about this presentation as well, and they got to see some demos of that in action, and it's like doing it without a green screen in real time. Somehow they managed to make it work with a freaking iPad with the single iPad camera, and it was just doing in real time. Oh yeah, this person's inside the VR game that they're playing, and it's broadcasting in real time. It sounded pretty neat, and it looked a little janky, but it looked like a step in a direction that is pretty neat. I'll say it that way. Now, this is Megan Fitzgerald. Once again, I don't know any department names, but whatever. Who mostly talked about like Oculus as a product, but I think the most interesting part of her entire shtick is going into a deeper dive about Facebook Horizon, which I'll skip kind of to the part about kind of what it looks like on the inside, because they did show off a little bit more of like the creation tools and aspects. And like that is the part, the building that they're showing, it's obviously it's different than something like Second Life, particularly because you're using like controllers and hands to move things around. But that in a core part is why I call this more of a Second Life 2.0 rather than like a VR chat or a Neos VR. Because the way you're building is drastically different than, oh, it's similar to Neos in a way, but it's drastically different than how you build with VR chat. You don't need Unity. And then they also said there's going to be sharing tools and stuff to make it easier to discover the things that you build in there. So that seems standard, but it has me more interested in the future of Horizon than, say, the future of VR chat, you know? Well, I kind of wish I did have more time to discuss this kind of business section of the Oculus presentation. I do encourage you all to go kind of check it out. Watch the entire keynote if you haven't already. They talk about integrations into like businesses like Ford or hospitals, Hilton, and kind of the things that they're using it for, the benefits. A lot of it kind of sounds like either helping out like simplify the design process where you don't necessarily have to prototype as much because you have the virtual representation, and also training, which seems like the other big thing. But I can imagine as the technology improves, like video conferencing can change into virtual conferencing, kind of like what they're showing in the picture up here. but I just don't necessarily have the insight into kind of how it could be used, or like business know-how, or like necessarily the time in the video to kind of cover everything here. So we're just gonna kind of gloss over it a little bit with the highlights there. Rounding up the presentation is a Mr. and he's been in pretty much the end of every Oculus Connect. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the entire presentation each time. The super forward-thinking experimental technology section with even Michael Abrash, I think it is. I know his first name's Michael. He's with Reality Labs, their sector, talking about literally just replacing the phone with VR AR, which I'm gonna let big chunks of his spiel here play out. Not necessarily this part, because he's talking about like how humans interact with the world and both the inputs and the outputs, how we have so many, and then he also talks about phones really only having the visual and the audio. Like there's not really much touch, even though you do interact with touch. And then you see in this chart here, just how many more points of input and output VR AR have compared to just a cell phone or even just a regular computer. And he goes into the next thing, talking about the varifocal lenses for kind of making the displays and the visual aspects of VR better. I'll let it play out from here.
Let's take a look at a prototype module to understand how electronic varifocal works. The next few images will be recorded through the electronic varifocal module you see here. This is a real camera shot. Each liquid crystal lens can be turned on and off to alternate between two focal states. Here we indicate that a lens is on by highlighting it in orange. When the lens is turned off, the focus shifts to the far object. And then, when the lens turns back on, it shifts to the near object again. As you can see, a single liquid crystal lens makes a great pair of digital bifocals, shifting focus between two depths. To achieve smooth varifocal, we address the full stack of liquid crystal lenses, with each additional pair doubling the number of focal planes. In this example, 6 liquid crystal lenses are driven to sweep through 64 focal planes, and you can see the focal depth smoothly changing at the right as we cycle through different sets of lens states. In addition to having no moving parts, this approach allows significantly better form factor compared to its predecessors. Here, we compare our new electronic module to the original half-dome assembly and see that there's a considerable reduction in size. This is still very much research today, but here's a view through an early half-dome 3 prototype. As you can see, without varifocal, the cassette gets blurry up close. But the electronic approach is able to replicate the smooth varifocal experience of mechanical systems at all depths, a promising sign for the future.
I'm gonna break off before he jumps into the next section here, just to talk about how fucking cool that fucking technology is. You can imagine that it has more applications than just in VR AR. I guess AR, but like, as a person who wears glasses IRL, like, seeing that you could think of a pair of glasses with like an electronic battery, whatever, that you put on and maybe it like dynamically enhances vision, maybe you get zoom out of it or something, which you would think in the future that would just kind of merge with AR, because at some point, if your glasses offer augmented reality, even if you don't need a prescription, like, why wouldn't you have the glasses for the augmented reality capability, you know? But, like, that is some cool shit right there. That is some pretty cool shit. As is the next thing he's about to talk about, too, the kind of deep dive into physical recreation in virtual space.
Computer vision, a part of what we call machine perception, is another essential element of the VR experience. For starters, the ability to localize the headset in the real world with great reliability and accuracy so that virtual objects are rock solid is what makes the virtual world seem real. That's not all, though. The ability to detect and reconstruct the real world and import parts of it as desired enables mixed reality. That is, mixing and matching of real and virtual in VR, so that you could, for example, bring a real keyboard, mouse, and desk into your virtual workspace and use them as easily as you would in the real world. Once you have a reconstruction, you can do whatever you want with it. Here are some pretty cool lighting effects in the reconstruction of Boz's dad's den.
And while that little bit about the room was pretty cool, it does also talk about not just recreating like a physical space, but also maybe recreating a physical body as well. And he starts off with a demonstration they had last year about real-time facial capture they did with one person. But the improvements he shows off next are quite stunning, I think.
That's amazingly realistic. But the level of expressiveness is pretty low. And expressiveness is perhaps the most critical part of social interaction. One of the important advances over the last year has been capturing more of that, as you can see in this next video. Here, Kevin's facial animation is being driven in real time entirely by cameras mounted in the headset.
Well, what can your face do? Can you show us?
Well, I've always hoped you would ask me that question. So I have some pretty good, I think, mouth movement.
How about your eyes? Can you look left, right, up, down? Good.
Yeah, I can do surprise. Ah, ooh. I think one of my favorites is puffing my cheeks.
The mouthwash commercial.
And rolling my tongue.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Good.
And of course, it doesn't just end with the face. They have to show a demonstration with a fully recreated human body.
We wish to spend time with and not be restricted only to those people who live close by. That's the promise of it. And this is research work that we've done right here in FRL Pittsburgh. I hope you enjoy the demo that you've seen, and we all look forward to what the future brings. Thank you.
And of course, all of this doesn't come without some sort of vision driving it, which is the one thing I would say Oculus has been fairly a lot better with than, say, like HTC. Like, actually visualizing the goal for these products that they're making, like the Quest and stuff. And I think Michael here just sums up kind of the end game of AR, VR better than I think most people out in this space have been able to.
For 5 years now, I've been wishing for a VR workspace that I could configure any way I wanted, with monitor quality virtual screens, holograms, whiteboards, and whatever, saving and switching between configurations with a click. Throw in the ability to interact with my real surroundings and use a keyboard and mouse, and that would be a great work environment. And then, if I could share virtual spaces with other people, it would become an amazingly productive collaborative environment as well. And while I'm at it, it'd be great to have the ability to manipulate both real and virtual objects with my hands, complete with haptic feedback. I would use that in a heartbeat, and I believe that it would spread like wildfire, the way personal computers did back in the day.
So, that kind of brings us to the end of day one for Oculus Connect. I would have liked to have done some of the other stuff from day 2 and 3. Like in day 2, John Carmack has a spiel, a section where, compared to like the little more optimistic, forward-thinking things that Michael had just put out, he brings up some of the like arguments, hesitations, and goes into a lot of really cool just technical details and considerations that they're having with the internal development of future software and hardware for Oculus. Also, there's a good few presentation segments where they went into deep dives about how the hand tracking works and like just design philosophy considerations with having to actually, track and do things with hands, not controllers. So I'm going to put links in the description below the video for like not just the day one keynote, but also John Carmack's keynote presentation as well, and let's say between 3 and 5 of probably the presentation segments that I found the most interesting. Before I forget, I will also put links to the tested videos. Adam Savage has tested the 2. I'm only going to put 2 of the videos that I saw for their coverage of Oculus Connect 6. So with that, been a little bit of time between recording this video and actually getting it out there, so I'm sure a lot of people have had time to think and discuss. So why don't you share some of your thoughts about Oculus and the future of VR in the the comments sections below. I'll be checking out for the next day or 2 for comments and responding here and there, and just keep an eye out for the future of VR. If you have a Quest, are you happy with the announcements? If you don't have a Quest, is like the hand tracking in the Oculus link, are those enough to sway you on it? Once again, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and also feel free to support on Streamlabs. If you enjoy the content that I am putting out, there'll be a link for that in the description as well. Until then, have a good one and take care.